A lot of you probably already heard about Phantom Galaxies as their single player campaigns took off a few months ago in the NFT gaming industry. Last week, Balthazar published the full research report of Phantom Galaxies, and today we're going to look at how this project scored across many different categories, so stay tuned. The Phantom Galaxies main story is set 50 years after the last great war between the Union and the Commonwealth of Neoterra. Two factions coexist in an uneasy alliance against the alien threat Sha'Carri. The Sha'Carri zealots are the priests of the caste of the Shahar race. They're out to get revenge on the human race for desecrating the ancestral planets of the Shahar. On the other hand, the starfighters are flown by the best pilots in both the Union and the Commonwealth, and the Ranger Squad represents the best of the best. As a player, you start out as an ensign in the Ranger Squad. Now, the lore doesn't go too in-depth here, but I'm not going to fault Phantom Galaxies because they already have a single-player campaign demo that you can play through, and I think they're trying to give more of the lore through the actual gameplay itself. Now, as I said, you can already test out this game, at least in the single-player aspect of the game, so let's talk about Balthazar's alpha team's experience. The game really feels like a traditional ARPG game already. The alpha is a single-player campaign with great graphics and space combat, throwing us back in time to the feeling we got while piloting spaceships in Star Wars Battlefront 2 from back in 2005. Phantom Galaxies is surprisingly engaging and enjoyable in its current state as a single-player campaign in alpha. With the imminent release of Chapter 4, players will have the opportunity to earn their token by completing daily goals towards the reward. Now, I think the reason that Phantom Galaxies is so well known already is because their game actually looks good just for a game itself. They've had these single-player missions out for many months now, even while most NFT games were still just browser-based. Of course, taking a single-player game into a massive multiplayer game is going to take a lot more work, but at least they have the base as a good starter. In Phantom Galaxies, players take on an important role in the war for control of the various sectors of Canis Major, the celestial constellation in the southern celestial hemisphere seen from Earth. In Phantom Galaxies, there are going to be four main classes of starfighters as the player can choose from the Lancer, Buster, Assault, and the Breacher frames. Players will spend most of their time piloting their mechanized starfighter. This vehicle has two modes, the Starship mode and the Mecha Robot mode. The Starship mode is best for space combat, evasive maneuvers, and space travel. At the same time, the Mecha form is as effective as a range combat and for some frames in melee. It also allows for ground-based combat and exploration. The combat gameplay adds strategic depth, allowing players to decide when to use Mecha or Starship mode. I really love this idea of mixing up with two different modes for your spaceship, and I love the fact that you can do both in space, as you would normally think, oh, the mech mode is just for the land and the melee battles, where your starship is for the flight and the starship battles. I think it's cool that you can do both in space and use one or the other to outplay your opponent. The main activities in Phantom Galaxies are the missions, quests, operations, and raids. Missions are the ones that are going to contain the main story content. The quests are more so going to illuminate the minor characters and factions within the game. Operations are going to be the backbone of repeatable content, keeping players engaged daily and weekly. And finally, raids are the in-game PvE content in Phantom Galaxies, where several players will be required to overcome challenges as one cannot do it alone. Of course, the game will host an immense universe with loads of star systems for players to explore. Star systems in the core will be safe environments for any activity and will primarily be PvE focused. Systems further out are far more dangerous and are under the protection of dangerous NPC factions and player organizations. The outer systems provide more opportunities to find rare materials and sought after loot, but at the risk of lower security and piracy. Lastly, in the outermost parts of space, in the furthest reaches of the universe, you can find frontier space. In this part, there is no governance or security whatsoever. You want something here? You take it. Within Frontier Space, one can discover rebel sectors which could contain mines, refineries, weapon cache, laboratories, and more. Once under player control, the player can stake Astrofur onto the sector, and the more token that is staked, the higher rate of the token emission from the sector. Of course, these are going to be lucrative, so it's probably going to be more taken in control by guilds than a single player. You also have to be really careful going into Frontier Space, as if your starfighter isn't insured and the durability goes below 0, the starfighter NFT is permanently destroyed. A lot of games seem to be implementing this idea, and I really like it because you get multiple zones within the game, each more becoming dangerous. If you're more a casual player, you just remain in that little center safe zone, and if you are a highly competitive gamer that wants to seek out the best rewards, then you push yourself, but you put more on the line, risking even sometimes your NFTs if you don't have them insured. That sounds like some crazy fun, high anxious moments, and even some really good stream highlights on the way for Phantom Galaxies. Now, we've talked mostly about PvE here in this game, but there is also going to be some PvP that's mostly going to be kept in the arena and then expanded upon in the future. And as said earlier, there's likely to be guild battles in Frontier Space, although solo players can participate here as well with the help of stealth technology. Between the playtesting, lore, and future gameplay plans, Phantom Galaxies received an 8 out of 10 for their background. Now let's take a look at their NFT gaming assets and their artwork. The primary NFT item players will use are the mechanized starfighters. The starfighter has a few different characteristics such as frame, reactor, shields, cargo hold, thrusters, overheat capacity, weapon slots, armor bonus, and more. In this picture we can see the cycle of upgrades a starfighter can go through. Playing the game and gathering resources and various equipment, NFTs can then be used to level up the starfighter by using the fusion chamber. In this way, the starfighter NFT is a living, changing NFT that will follow the player throughout the game and change according to the player's preference. I love the fact that the NFT is going to be a livable, breathable thing that can change over time as you develop through the game, rather than having to buy new NFTs every time you want something new. If making a starfighter from scratch, a player must acquire a base frame NFT. Once a player has a base frame, it is not yet palatable. To fly it, it has to undergo fusion. You can just purchase a starfighter, however, purchasing the most advanced starfighters might not be the smartest thing for most players, as the player's avatar level is a limiting factor on a starfighter's combat abilities. High-level starfighters require high-level avatars in order to make the most out of them. Speaking of which, the avatar NFTs will define the visual appearance of a player's character alongside some of its starting attributes. As an avatar progresses through the game, players must allocate skill points to improve its effectiveness in combat. The avatar NFTs are going to be minted and sold in batches. Now, if I'm thinking about this correctly, it sounds like the avatar shouldn't be a tradable NFT, it's one that you buy and you have to level up yourself. In that way of making the avatar and the starfighter two different NFTs and one relying on the other, you can't just come in and buy the best starfighter because you're going to need a leveled up avatar as well to pilot it. The system makes sense to me to reward the actual best players of the game and the most dedicated to the ones being able to pilot the best starships. Of course, there's going to be NFT items as well that will include weapons, armors, shaders, and consumables. Items can also be bought from shops and found as loot throughout the universe. Players will also be able to purchase and own property which comes in multiple sizes, ranging from space stations for single players to planetary bases for large organizations. Planets will provide a lot of opportunities for development such as hangars for starfighters, marketplaces, residential units, and mineral refineries. The team seems to have a solid plan for their NFTs, which is why they were rewarded an 8.5 out of 10 for their NFT gaming assets and an 8 out of 10 on their artwork. Now let's look at how the white paper scored, including things like the tokenomics, roadmap, blockchain, and more. As of writing this research report, there's little to no public information regarding the tokenomics of Phantom Galaxies. Basically, all they've said about it is that they will have both fungible and non-fungible tokens used for governance, starfighter fusion, and entry of activities, and have given their token address of Astrofer. The above was the entirety of their token information in the light paper currently available, which obviously isn't very impressive. We are eager to see more details and hope for some strong, sustainable built-in mechanics for their token. The alpha team also stumbled upon a Medium blog post from Phantom Galaxies with a little bit more information. If you want to go into the research report and read it, you can find the link there. It's odd to me that an NFT game with already a single player campaign that is looking really good has so little information about their tokenomics. Perhaps it's an intentional mindset of, hey, we want to create a good game first before going too much into our tokens, but we've seen many games with poor tokenomics even if their gameplay is solid, so it's a little bit concerning that they don't have more information yet, and hopefully they can amend this going forward. Phantom Galaxies is developed as a game for multiple blockchains. Each blockchain will have its own galaxy, but players from different blockchains will be able to interact throughout the universe. The game will roll out on various chains in step, where the first chain will be Polygon. From what we can see in the roadmap featured, the team hopes to launch their game and provide early access in Q4 of 2022, in other words, just a few months from now. In the light paper, we also notice a more detailed roadmap including previous and future phases, including phases 2 through 6. However, there is no information about when these subsequent phases will occur. I'm super excited by the fact that by the end of this year, we can at least have an early access version of this game because it looks really good so far. Now, I'm slightly worried how much content they will have at that time for just the early access mode and how long it's going to take to finally get to phase 2 where more of that content will be made. I'm hoping there's enough content out there for gamers like you and me to play this game each and every week, even in the early access mode. Phantom Galaxies light paper is very general and doesn't go into much detail about anything. We get a brief understanding of the game and its plans. But if we hadn't seen the game ourselves, this document would have left much to our imagination. As it is a light paper and not a white paper, we can't expect a great level of detail. Yet, and the light paper does say a more detailed white paper will come soon, and this is from 2021. We would have expected a white paper by now. Especially with an early game launch coming next quarter and NFT sales already happening, I would definitely have expected a white paper by now that is fully described everything in detail. This is such a bummer to me because it seems like an amazing project, but it's just hard to tell because we don't have the full information to use yet. For this reason, the white paper only scores a 4.5 out of 10. Now let's take a look at the team that is working on Phantom Galaxies. The team working on Phantom Galaxies is Blowfish Studios, which is a subsidiary of Animoca Brands. Blowfish Studios is working on several gaming projects at once, one of them being Phantom Galaxies. Although the studio doesn't list all of its employees, on LinkedIn we find 81 employees amongst several different departments. We cannot find which team members are working specifically on Phantom Galaxies. The studio has team members with experience from several well-known companies such as Apple, EA, Wargaming, Epic Games, Gameloft, SMG Studio, and Lionhead Studios working on Fable 3. Overall, our conviction is high with this developer. We find Blowfish Studios a serious development team with diverse, relevant experience, earning them an 8 out of 10 for their team. Before we wrap up today, I do want to tell you one more time that Balthazar is creating some amazing NFT gaming projects, including our launchpad with another NFT launch of ARPG. So make sure you jump over to our website at some point and see all that we've got going on. Now for the final score of Phantom Galaxies, let's start with the score of the website, which is 7.5 out of 10, and their socialnomics earned an 8 out of 10, which you can read about in the full report. It was reported in May 2022 that there are over 125,000 users actively playing the alpha and over 500,000 owners of NFTs granting access to the alpha version of the game. These are large numbers for a blockchain game that isn't even available to the public yet, and having this momentum pre-release makes us believe that come launch day, the name of Phantom Galaxies will be heard all over Web3. Also, with how much this game has going on between how you're going to customize your starfighter, the many different options for playing between missions, quests, operations, and raids, including PvE and PvP, to say this game has just a little depth and variation is definitely an understatement. Although there are negatives such as the lack of a more precise information about tokenomics, we find clear potential in the team who has worked with companies such as Apple's, EA, Epic Games, and Gameloft. This, amongst other completed games, gives us confidence that this project will be successful. With backers such as Google, Sony, Apple, Microsoft, we find it hard to not have faith in this project, which is why it has received an overall score of 7.5 out of 10. Well, I don't know about you guys, but Phantom Galaxies is definitely one of the games at the top of my list that I'm looking for in the NFT gaming industry. Fingers crossed that everything goes well and we can actually be playing this game by the end of this year. Of course, as the alpha team said, I'm a little bit concerned about the lack of a full white paper, and I'd like to see that before putting money into the game. It's a little bit of a bummer because if Phantom Galaxies had a full detailed white paper with full clear information out there, Phantom Galaxies definitely could have earned themselves an 8 or higher. So team, if you're out there listening, we love your game, but just get on the white paper. Just write it out. Take the time. It will be worth it. So let me hear your thoughts about Phantom Galaxies in the comments below, and I'll see you at one of these other videos here around me. Gracias, thank you, salamat, grazie for watching.